Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about the Woody Woodpecker sequel. First, let's start with the plot. Woody Woodpecker must find a new home after being kicked out of the forest. At Camp Woohoo, he thinks he's found his forever home, but there's an inspector on the loose who wants to shut down the camp. Now it's up to Woody and his friends to save everybody. Now, if I had to be very honest, the plotline sounds utterly ridiculous, even by Woody Woodpecker standards. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a bad plotline. It actually sounds pretty decent. The issue I have with the plotline is that it sounds less like a Woody Woodpecker live-action film and more like a Woody Woodpecker cartoon. So because of that, I assume that the film is going to have like these cartoony physics that are probably not going to make any sense, and probably the actors are going to ham up their performances, similar to that of the first movie. But in the first movie, at least you can say that the plotline actually kind of makes sense, considering that it's a live-action film with Woody Woodpecker. That's literally what the film is supposed to be about. And I get that a lot of people really hate the first Woody Woodpecker movie, and that it wasn't faithful to the cartoon, so in the sequel they're probably trying to improve upon that by making it more cartoony and more wacky and silly. But honestly, it doesn't really work in a live-action environment, so I'm kind of concerned as to how they're going to be doing this entire plotline in a live-action setting. Like, how are you going to have Woody just do all these cartoony antics and then have the humans act the exact same way? In a way, it kind of ruins the entire idea of this being a Woody Woodpecker live-action film. Like, what's the point of having this in live-action when you can just have it animated and do whatever cartoony antics you want and actually have it make sense in that context? Like, that's what I'm saying here. With that being said, though, that's the only main criticism I have with the plotline. I did mention that it's actually pretty decent, so if there is one positive I can say about the plotline, at the very least, is that although it sounds way more silly than the original, I have to be honest, despite its utter ridiculousness, I do find it kind of more interesting, surprisingly. Like, this is actually an interesting plotline compared to the original film, because even though the film was clearly doing its job, the first Woody Woodpecker, I think it's kind of interesting that the sequel is at least trying to make it more cartoony, so I will give it points for that. Like, at least we can say that maybe this will be fun, considering that it is going to be more centered on Woody's antics, more so than the first film. So maybe it can be funny. Who knows? I guess what I'm trying to say here is that the plotline sounds mildly amusing, despite the fact that it is utterly ridiculous. And of course, let's get to the fun factors of the film, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's talk about the main character himself, Woody Woodpecker. What about Woody Woodpecker's design? How does it feel compared to the original? Well, I have to be honest, his animation has, well, it looks pretty good, surprisingly. I'm kind of weirded out by the fact that people are saying that the animation looks worse. It doesn't look worse, I would say. That's probably not the best term to use, but I will say it has a noticeable downgrade, like there is something a little bit missing. That's all I'll say. However, the downgrade isn't really that noticeable because, for the most part, his design looks mainly the same as before. The thing is that Woody Woodpecker's design in terms of textures and maybe the coloring, it looks kind of off. Like, I will admit that, yeah, the colors don't look as bright compared to the first film. Not to mention Woody Woodpecker's plumage and his feathers, for whatever reason, they look more ruffled, I would say. I don't know why that's the case, though, because in the first film, he looked a lot more smooth. In this film, he looks way more ruffled. But judging by the facial expressions and the poses that we've been seeing from the first few images of this film, to be honest, the animation still looks pretty good. I would say that it's on par with the original, despite the fact that it has a noticeable downgrade. That's the issue here. Like, the animation has a noticeable downgrade, yet despite this, they're actually doing a really good job. Honestly, it's not really that big of an issue. It's like, come on, guys. They're at least trying. If you can't at least see the effort in this film, then you don't know what you're talking about at this point. And then there's the fact that Woody Woodpecker's actor, Eric Bauza, although it was claimed back in 2023 that he wouldn't reprise his role, great news! He's reprising his role! You see? Isn't that hard, Netflix? All you have to do is get the original actor who played Woody Woodpecker. He's still around, so you might as well get him. And guess what? They did. So I don't even have to complain. Wow. You don't need to replace his original voice actor. He already did a great job as it is. Like, honestly. I'm very happy to announce that Eric Bauza will be reprising his role as Woody Woodpecker. No exceptions. We are not going to have a new voice actor for Woody. That is the official actor for Woody Woodpecker. Eric Bauza. The actor who played Bugs Bunny in the HBO Max Looney Tunes shorts, and he also played Daffy Duck. That is how good of an actor he is. He plays the most iconic characters in Warner Brothers history alongside Universal Studios' Woody Woodpecker. My God, why do I have to keep saying this? So thank the Lord that he's coming back in this movie, because honestly, it was pretty much the saving grace to anything Woody Woodpecker related in this live action film, including the first film. Like honestly, the thing about the Woody Woodpecker live action films is that they wouldn't be as good as they were before if it weren't for Eric Bauza. If you really do think about it, Eric Bauza is the one key element to these Woody Woodpecker films that always keeps me entertained. Because literally, every single performance he does always has that high-pitched voice. And he always makes me laugh whenever he has that great range in his voice. It's just, perfect. Of course, you're always going to have those naysayers who are going to say Eric Bauza's voice for Woody Woodpecker and the Looney Tunes sounds obnoxious. Like, I'm not joking, I've actually seen people on the internet say Eric Bauza's voice for the Looney Tunes and Woody Woodpecker sounds really annoying. But let me tell those naysayers something. Let me tell them something. Oh no, you're not gonna take down Eric Bauza, because no matter what you do, he's still gonna voice these characters. He's gonna voice these characters for years to come. I don't care that much about your ranting on this one actor. He's actually getting money off of this. You're not. So, ha 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 ha, be quiet. So what are my overall thoughts on the Woody Woodpecker sequel? Well, I have to say, it's completely bonkers, but to be fair, for a bonkers sequel, this is kind of what I expect. This is basically what I expected from a Woody Woodpecker sequel. I honestly have been waiting for this movie for such a long time, and the fact that I was being so patient with the filmmakers, and yet we get our first look at the Woody Woodpecker in this film, for the first time in a long time, is really nice. It's actually beautiful. It's quite an achievement, really, that we are actually getting a Woody Woodpecker sequel to a film that was once considered popular on Netflix. So yeah, that's really amazing, honestly. I can't wait for Netflix to just release this film, because I don't really mind the naysayers at this point. They're just hating on Eric Bauza and Woody Woodpecker himself. I don't really understand the hate for the first film. I personally liked it, despite the fact that a lot of other people really hated it. Like, the first Woody Woodpecker was my childhood. I actually watched that movie several times. Like, several times when I was, like, a child. Back in 2017. So, yeah. The fact that the Woody Woodpecker sequel is even coming out is, like, a miracle in itself. Because, literally, this movie could have actually got canceled, and we probably wouldn't have seen the light of day. Like, honestly, for real, the fact that we're even getting a Woody Woodpecker sequel is honestly quite an achievement. Like, really do think about it, guys. This is the most iconic character in history, and he manages to get his own movie, but not just his own movie. He gets a sequel. A sequel. And not to mention, a sequel where he's the only CGI animated character amongst human actors. That's it. Like, do you not realize how intelligent that is? All I can say now is God bless the creators who made this film, because honestly, this was quite an accomplishment. Like, for real. No joke, this was actually an accomplishment in mankind's history. Like, not just mankind history, but for bird history. This is really great. And cartoon history, not to mention that. Yeah, this is brilliant. It's bonkers, but, you know, it'll do. It'll do.